Jocko Podcast number 21. You know what that means. It's book review time. We got Child Development by John W. Santrock. But wait, there's a lot more authors than just John Santrock. We're going to look through this book. We're going to examine it. It's the 14th edition, so you know all the chaff has been removed. This is a weedy book. It's a weedy book. So if you want to know about all these teachers who are teaching your kids in the public school, and you want some reasons to say, hey, should I homeschool my kids? Should I not homeschool my kids? Well, these are the teachers who teach the teachers. This is the curriculum for the teachers. This is what the teachers are taught to teach, how to teach, the methodology. So we've got caring for children, biological processes, learning goals, prenatal diagnostic tests, the collaborative gene, genetic foundations of Holly Ishmael, genetic counselor. Genetic counseling sounds interesting. We're just going to probe through the book here. We're just going to go for anything that might be tasty, anything that might be cool. Let's see, Holly Ishmael. She works with pediatric disorders. Okay, that's cool, Holly. Back to the old contents. We got the increased diversity of adopted children and adoptive parents. Ooh, that's a bit spicy. Let's see what goes on there, page 64. Ooh, who do we have here? Who's this lovely lady? Do we know who that is? Do you guys, can you see that? That is the beautiful Angelina Jolie. Angelina Jolie. She is part of the curriculum, guys. An increasing number of Hollywood celebrities are adopting children from developing countries. Actress Angelina Jolie carries her adopted daughter Zahara with adopted sons Maddox and Pax walking beside them. The increased diversity of adoptive children. A number of changes have characterized adoptive children and adoptive parents in the last 3 to 4 decades. Most U.S. adopted children were healthy, non-Latino white infants who were adopted at birth or soon after. However, in recent decades, as abortion became legal and contraception increased, fewer of these infants became available for adoption. These infants. Increasingly, as abortion has become illegal, increasingly U.S. couples adopted a much wider diversity of children from other countries, other ethnic groups, children with physical or mental problems, children who had been neglected or abused. So it seems like making abortion illegal, or making it legal, making it possible, has helped a lot of these kids. Changes have also characterized adoptive parents in the last 3 to 4. In the first half, most adoptive parents were married couples from non-Latino, white, middle, or upper socioeconomic status backgrounds who did not have any type of disability. However, in recent decades, increased diversity has characterized adoptive parents. Many adoptive agencies today have no income requirements for adoptive parents. So they could be homeless. They could have an income of 0. Be living on welfare. They could be adoptive parents. They now permit adoption by adults from a wide range of backgrounds, including single adults, gay, male, and lesbian adults, and older adults. Further, many adoptions involve family members. Currently, 30% of U.S. adoptions are made by relatives, which sounds good to me. I mean, adoption tends to be a problematic thing. Kids who, you look at the orphanage system, which is pretty bad, but then you look at adoption, you look at the rates of abuse. There's a lot of bad stuff going on. So I support uncles, aunts, and grandparents adopting their kids. Slightly more than 50% of U.S. adoptions occur through the foster care system. Recently, more than 100,000 children in the U.S. foster care system were waiting for someone to adopt them. Wow. That's a lot of kids. That's a whole lot of kids. Abortion is legal, and we still have all of those kids who want to, they want to get adopted. They want some parents. So what's going on with that? Why is that happening? What's the problem here? Why haven't you adopted? Why aren't you like Angelina Jolie? She's part of the curriculum. You should be following her path. Okay. So that's interesting. We've got genetics, heredity and environment, interaction, nature, nurture, debate. We might go on over there. We might check it out, see what they have to say. Prenatal care is very important. Music therapy, cross-cultural variation in incidence and causes of low birth weight. Man, let's just go through it. Let's go through it page by page. So we're going to 66 now. We're going to the old nature nurture debate. Now, let's see what it says. Does it say that race is skin color? Does it say that race is skin deep? Is that what it's going to tell me? Is it going to say that race is a social construct? Let's find out. Let's see. Let's see what the mainstream science says about people and groups of people. Can we generalize groups of people? Is that possible? Is that something we can do? Are we allowed to do that? Is that moral? I think I was just over here. Behavioral genetics, twin studies, adoption studies, shared environmental epigenetics, gene-environment interaction. So that wasn't actually very important. I'm interested in prenatal development. I want to know how much BPA can you inject straight into your placenta and still have it. What is the tolerance level that the FDA has set for BPA in the ovaries? I want to know about that. How much BPA can we inject into the uterus and the fallopian tubes? See, feminists, I can also learn basic female anatomy and biology. See, I can be a feminist ally. It's pretty cool. And we can look at these different babies. We can look at these different... Why don't you check out some of these pictures? Check out some of those. We got some nice graphics here. That's what you're paying. Paying for graphics, because you can't Google search these things. You gotta pay $100 to get a textbook like this. So did you know that at 12 weeks, a fetus can urinate? Its sex is distinguishable. The fingerprints are present. Can smile, frown, suck, and swallow. That's pretty incredible. 12 weeks, that's 3 months pregnant. That sounds like a baby to me. 3 months. They want to do 9-month abortions. 3 months. The brain is forming at 8 weeks. 24 weeks, it's got a strong grip. Waste matter is collected in the bowel. The eyes are open at 24 weeks. How many months is that? That's like 6 months. You've got a heartbeat audible at 20 weeks. You've got hiccups. You've got hair, eyelashes, eyebrows. I'm kind of working backwards here. Let's go forward. 28 weeks. Breathing movements are present. 32 weeks. Has periods of sleep and wakefulness. Responds to sounds. Iron stored in the liver. 36 to 38 weeks. And is gaining immunities from the mother. So that's all beautiful. The beautiful growth of life in the young. Okay. How does caffeine... Oh, now we're getting some good stuff. For all you mothers out there, for all my huge female audience, you're about to become pregnant with your lawfully wedded husband. And you're looking at the teratology. The field of study that investigates the cause of birth defects is called teratology. And we have a nice chart here which shows us susceptibility to teratogens. So the greatest sensitivity to teratogens begins 3 weeks in. You might not even know you're pregnant 3 weeks into your pregnancy. 3 weeks in is when teratogen sensitivity begins. Usually 1 to 2 weeks you're not too susceptible to teratogens. That is the zygote phase, that is the blastocyte phase. But about 3 weeks in, you've got a heart, you got a central nervous system, and the sensitivity to teratogens becomes a problem. And this continues up to the 38 weeks. It can affect the central nervous system, the heart, the ears, the eyes, the arms, the legs, the teeth, the palate, the genitalia. So we're looking at different aspects, prescriptions and non-prescription drugs. Many U.S. women are giving prescriptions for drugs like antibiotics, analgesics, asthma medications, but they may have effects on the fetus. Prescription drugs can function as teratogens, include antibiotics. So if you're someone who likes to take antibiotics, you better cut that habit out once you're 3 weeks pregnant. Streptomycin and tetracycline. Antidepressants. If you're on antidepressants, you better figure out how to get off those for the full 9 months. Because if you can't, and if you have any residual antidepressants in your system, that's a teratogen. Also, we do know that our water supply is full of antidepressants. And isn't that terrible? Isn't that a terrible thing that we have detectable levels of antidepressants in our water supply? So even if you choose not to take them effectively, you are taking a very low-level dose over a long period of time that builds up in your body. It could be a teratogen. It could be why we have so many birth defects going on these days. Even though supposedly we have a better healthcare system, we have better prenatal care, but we seem to have more birth defects than ever before. What else have we got? We've got hormones such as progestin and synthetic estrogen. So if you're a transgender person and you're trying to have a baby, that might be a problem. You might have to get off your hormones. Also, right now we're just talking about the mother's, the maternal environment, the womb, etc., the female body. But if you're a man and you're exposed to pesticides, which are in your food, and you're exposed to estrogen, so, a transgender male who wants to have children, you've put estrogen in your body, you've actually harmed your sperm quality. And that could be a teratogen. What else have we got? Accutane, which is prescribed for acne. So if you have acne problems, here's what you need to do. Before you go to bed at night, take a clean t-shirt. You've never used this t-shirt before. Stick it over your pillowcase. If you think it's going to fall off, put 2 clean t-shirts on there. Fall asleep. Now, if you have really bad acne, you can set an alarm. And that alarm is going to set off however many times you want to wake up. You want to wake up once, twice, whatever. Superman sleep schedule, I don't know. But you wake up in the middle of the night if you really need to. So, some people don't, but you wake up and you take off those 2 clean t-shirts. You replace them with 2 new clean t-shirts. They can be ratty t-shirts. They can be little, they don't have to look good. They don't need logos. You put those back on. You fall asleep. You wake up. You get rid of them. You put on another pair of clean t-shirts, and you might need 40 t-shirts to do this, and you might need to do a lot of laundry, but that is the safe, natural, effective way to solve your acne problem, because you have oil on your face that you're then rubbing into your face, that you produce this oil at night, it rubs into your face, you have a problem. That's what I would suggest to people rather than Accutane or some of those other things that really don't seem to work for everybody. Some people, it might work for you. But it could also be a teratogen that remains in your body long after. So your body is amazing in that we can maintain vestiges of certain chemicals and drugs long after the dose has seemingly passed, long after it's effective. We also can talk about psychoactive drugs. And you're probably thinking about PCP, you're thinking about Molly, you're thinking about LSD. But psychoactive drugs are anything that acts on the nervous system to alter consciousness, perceptions, change moods, includes caffeine, alcohol, nicotine, drugs, alcohol, cocaine, methamphetamine, marijuana, heroin. So you better stop all that stuff. If you drink coffee, you need to go full Mormon and stop drinking coffee if you're 3 weeks pregnant. Caffeine. People consume caffeine when they drink coffee, tea, colas, or they eat chocolate. So you got to stop eating chocolate, women. Here's the thing. Pregnant women should not consume caffeine. A recent research review found that high amounts of caffeine consumption do not increase the risk of miscarriage, congenital malformations, or growth retardation, even though the USDA recommends that they don't eat it. So the studies by Brett Christian and Diener 2011. So I would be on the safe side. I would say stop eating chocolate. Stop eating your caffeinated waffles. Whatever. Stop drinking coffee because that's going to cause some problems, possibly, according to the USDA. Now, according to this study, the USDA is lying and they're fear-mongering, but Let's go on the safe side with this. Stop drinking coffee. Stop eating chocolate. Okay? Now we have alcohol. We already know about fetal alcohol spectrum disorders, or FASD. FASD can cause facial deformities, defective limbs, face, and heart. Wow. Not all pregnant heavy drinkers with children have FASD. Even drinking just 1 or 2 servings of beer or wine or 1 serving of hard liquor a few days a week may have negative effects. So that's pretty bad. Nicotine. If you smoke cigarettes, you got to stop. And also secondhand smoke, Dad. Listen, you dads out there, you need to stop smoking as well because your wife is going to get that secondhand. Cigarette smoking can adversely influence prenatal development. Preterm birth, low birth rate, neonatal deaths, sudden infant death syndrome. Wow, stop smoking, please. And that's nicotine, by the way. So all you vapors out there who think you're safe, no, the vape juice, it doesn't have smoke in it, doesn't have carbon dioxide, but it has nicotine. It has nicotine in it. So you need to stop vaping because vaping is going to kill your babies. Wow. Environmental tobacco smoke is increased to a risk of low birth rate, diminished ovarian functioning in female offspring. Environmental tobacco smoke, so that's smoke out in the environment, not necessarily you have to smoke, associated with 114 deregulations, especially those involving immune functioning in the fetal cells of offspring. Wow. And look at this mother right here. She didn't listen. She didn't listen. She smoked, and now her baby is dead. And how does that make you feel? It doesn't make me feel good. Cocaine. Cocaine is pretty bad. Cocaine does some things. Okay, so this gets interesting. We read all this stuff, okay. So here's what it says. Cocaine exposure during prenatal development is associated with reduced birth weight, length, head circumference. Keep that in mind, head circumference. Prenatal cocaine exposure, lower arousal, less effective self-regulation, impulse control, higher excitability. Higher excitability. Okay. Lower quality of reflexes, impaired motor development, slower growth rate, elevated blood pressure, impaired language development and information processing, attention deficits, especially impulsivity. And I could read all the Ackerman, 2010, Richardson, 2008, Goldschmidt, 2008, Shakarin, 2010, Beagley, 2006. So we're not just making this up. Learning disabilities at age 7. Increased likelihood of being in a special education program that involves support services. Levine, 2008. Increased behavioral problems, especially externalizing problems such as high rates of aggression and delinquency. Mins, 2010. Richardson, 2011. Now here's the kicker. You just remember all those terms I just used? Impulsivity, aggression, learning disability. Some researchers argue that these findings should be interpreted cautiously. Why? Because other factors in the lives of pregnant women who use cocaine, such as poverty, malnutrition, and other substance abuse, cannot be ruled out as possible contributors to the problems found in their children. For example, cocaine users are more likely than non-users to smoke cigarette, marijuana, alcohol, methamphetamines. Despite these cautions, weight of research evidence indicates that these cocaine babies are likely to have neurological cognitive defects. Cocaine use by pregnant women is never recommended. Doesn't say it's always prohibited. That's kind of, why not write always prohibited? Why are you putting it in the double negative? Never recommended. Anyway, so that's an interesting caveat. Who are these pregnant women taking coke? Well, they might come from disadvantaged backgrounds, and so we can't exactly blame the coke on all of these problems I just listed. Methamphetamine causes problems. Marijuana, your safe drug, your right-wing drug, your marijuana. All you marijuana fiends out there, you reefer badness zombies. Okay, marijuana, an increasing number of studies find that marijuana used by pregnant women also has negative outcomes for offspring. It's a plant! It's a plant. You can't hurt anybody. Plants never hurt anybody. Nightshade never hurt anybody. There's no natural toxins in plants, man. Wow. For example, researchers found that prenatal marijuana exposure was related to lower intelligence in children. Lower intelligence. If you want your children to be low intelligence, smoke weed. Smoke weed, you dirty bastards. Smoke some weed. I can't believe you people. Another study indicated that prenatal exposure to marijuana was linked to marijuana use at 14 years of age. In some, marijuana use is not recommended for pregnant women. Case closed. Case closed on that one. Stop smoking weed. Stop smoking weed. Now you've got heroin. Heroin, there's some problems. Don't do heroin. Okay. Incompatible blood types, environmental hazards, radiation, toxic waste, chemical pollutants. X-ray radiation can affect the embryo. The benefits of an X-ray, routine X-rays, environmental pollutants, toxic waste, carbon monoxide, mercury, and lead, as well as fertilizers and pesticides. So if your girl be pregnant and she's not eating organic food, if you don't have your own farm, your own organic farm on your own private island far away from civilization where there's no runoff or drift, or the rain is an acid rain, if you're not in a secluded, if you basically don't live on another planet, then you're ingesting these pesticides and your baby is it's messed up. Your baby's messed up. Look, we've got a real sad little boy over here. He was exposed to radiation at Chernobyl. He's very sad. He's missing an arm. He's actually a real good-looking kid in terms of, I like his dress. I like his little outfit. He looks like a good guy. He looks like he's going to grow up to be a nice guy, despite the fact that he's missing an arm and everything. So, I guess rather at the end of the day, I'd rather have radiation exposure that leaves my kid, losing an arm or whatever, than the case where you have a situation where the face is messed up and the brain is messed up. So I guess you got to pick and choose your poison there. Maternal diseases, measles, genital herpes. Okay, I'm just going to show you, I'm going to try to show you what this says. Let's see if we can read this together. Come on, here we go. We're going to read it together. Another infection that's received widespread attention is genital herpes. Newborns, come on. Auto-adjust with me. Auto-adjust. Okay, I just want you to read that. Newborns who contract the virus when they're delivered through the birth canal of the mother, who has herpes, and just, we got to study there. Okay? About 1/3 of babies delivered through an infected birth canal die. Another 1/4 become brain damage. So I wonder if disadvantaged communities that are disproportionately impacted by genital herpes, have this problem of, low birth rates, low birth weights, not rates, weights, that they have increased child mortality. Wonder if there's any connection we can make there. AIDS is a sexually transmitted infection. A mother can infect her offspring with HIV/AIDS. Wow. Yeah, that's always sad. The more widespread disease of diabetes also affects offspring. A large-scale study revealed that twice as many women and 5 times as many adolescents giving birth had diabetes in 2005 as 1999. Newborns with physical defects are more likely to have diabetic mothers. Women who have gestational diabetes may also deliver large infants, and those infants are at risk for diabetes themselves. So diabetes is the gift that keeps on giving. There seems to be some kind of epigenetic inheritance going on there. Maternal diet and nutrition. Being overweight before and during pregnancy can put the fetus at risk. An increasing number of pregnant women are overweight. Hypertension, diabetes, respiratory complications, infections. Wow. An aspect that's important is folic acid, a B-complex vitamin. Folic acid was linked with a 70% chance, a lower chance of delivering at 20 to 28 weeks, a 50. So basically, taking your folic acid is going to prevent an early birth, which is good. Another recent study showed that mothers who did not use folic acid had more behavior problems, so psychological, mental problems, because the brain is a physical organ. If you don't give it what it needs, it's got problems. All right, lack of folic acid, defect in the spinal cord. You got to take a minimum of 400 micrograms of folic acid per day, about twice the amount the average woman gets in one day. Orange juice and spinach are examples of foods rich in folic acid. Don't drink orange juice. That's just soda without the bubbles. Drink spinach juice. Go blend up some spinach. Drink that. So I'm going to have some spinach today. That's just one more reason, just in case I get pregnant. Just one more reason to have spinach. Eating fish is usually recommended, but pollution has destroyed the world and made eating fish a dangerous choice for pregnant women because of mercury. So we're talking about shark, swordfish, king mackerel, large tuna. That's too bad. It's linked to lower intelligence. So wow, you're telling me you change all these physical things and the intelligence lowers. It's almost like intelligence intelligence is a result of a physical organ. If we change that physical organ, we're going to change the level of intelligence. Oh my gosh, it's almost like intelligence isn't some like magical otherworldly thing. Maternal age. Ooh, this is a good one. This is a good one for all you feminists out there who want to have your career and then you want to have your kids at age 35. Let's read about this. Why are birth defects increasing? Could it have anything to do with the rising age of motherhood, first child? When possible harmful effects on the fetus are considered, two maternal ages are of special interest: adolescence and 35 and older. The mortality rate of infants born to adolescent mothers is double that of infants born to mothers in their 20s. So don't get your girl knocked up before she's 20, because then that can also have birth defects. Just to be safe, wait till she's 20. So, if we were radical traditionalists, we would say put the old age of consent at 20. Actually, eliminate the age of consent. Say there's no age. In fact, if two people ever have sex, it's illegal and death penalty. That's what the Bible says. That's what the Torah says. I was just trying to be a good philo-Semite, but so if that doesn't work, what do you do? Wait till they're 20. Moving on. Mortality rate of infants born, adequate prenatal care. Maternal age is linked to the risk that a child will have Down syndrome. As discussed in Chapter 2, we have retardation of mental abilities. Now, that's not hate speech, because that's just what it says. What are we talking? When the mother reaches 40 years of age, the probability is slightly over 1 in 100 that their baby born will have Down syndrome. By age 50, it's 1 in 10. So if you're 50 years old and you're trying to conceive a child, there's a 1 in 10 chance your child will have Down syndrome. All right. Well, I think women who are 50 years old who are trying to have children should be disincentivized from doing that. We should establish disincentives for that kind of behavior. I think that's pretty disgusting. When mothers are 35 years and older, risks also increase for low birth weight, preterm delivery, and fetal death. So, yeah, the way to have a good society is to sterilize all women 35 years old or over. That is the way to improve society. It's not eugenics, because we're not, well, maybe it is, but we're not targeting anybody here. It's ageism. It's just ageism. In fact, this would lower white fertility. If you start prohibiting over 35-year-old women to have children, that's going to drop the white fertility like a rock. Everyone else is going to be fine, but the whites are going to suffer for a major birth decline. Blah blah blah. Emotional states and stress. Okay, so you guys, women started complaining to you. They said blah blah blah, and you didn't listen. And now you have Down syndrome, baby. Now you have Down syndrome, baby. Okay, so if you only had listened to women, about their emotional states and stress, you could have prevented this. We warned you, but you didn't listen. When a pregnant woman experiences intense fears, such as seeing a spider, anxieties, such as leaving the house and forgetting whether she left the stove on or off, and other emotions or negative mood states, such as watching a scary movie, psychological changes occur that may affect her fetus. A mother's stress may also influence the fetus indirectly by increasing the likelihood that she will engage in unhealthy behaviors such as taking drugs or receiving poor prenatal care. High maternal anxiety and stress during pregnancy have long-term consequences. A research review indicated that pregnant women with high levels of stress are at increased risk for having a child with emotional or cognitive problems, so dum-dums. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and language delay. A recent study of more than 30,000 reviewed that across the 9 months of pregnancy, their risk of being born preterm was highest when maternal exposure to stress occurred during the 5th and 6th months. Might maternal depression also have an adverse effect? A recent research review concluded that maternal depression during pregnancy is linked to preterm birth. Another recent research review indicated that untreated prenatal maternal depression is associated with negative outcomes for offspring, including reduced empathy in childhood. So, if your girl is sad, your children will be autistic and sociopathic. They won't have any empathy. So these are legitimate. The next time, all you little prospective families out there, you little couples, the next time, you're the girl, she gets a little bit anxious, she experiences fear, maybe some anxiety, a negative mood state, she gets depressed, she gets sad. You got to stop that in its tracks, because you're going to destroy your future. Your children are going to not reach their potential. You're ruining their lives before they even had a chance. You're setting them up for failure. So stop. Be happy all the time. Do some Buddhist meditation. Get control of your emotions. Stop being depressed. Stop that nonsense. We don't have time for that. We've got to do some cool things here. We don't have time for depression. Okay, paternal factors. So far, we've discussed the characteristics of the mother. However, we also want to talk about the paternal risk factors. Okay. In one study in China, the longer fathers smoked, the greater the risk that their children would develop cancer. All right. That's not cool. We don't want cancer. Indeed, there are several men's exposure to lead, radiation, pesticides, petrochemicals may cause abnormalities in sperm, leading to miscarriages or diseases such as childhood cancer. The father's smoking caused problems. Heavy paternal smoking. Smoking. This negative outcome may be related to smoking. Paternal smoking. Increased with leukemia smoking. A recent research review concluded that there is an increased risk of spontaneous abortion. What does that even mean, spontaneous abortion? Is that like the body kills the fetus? Okay. There is an increased risk of autism, schizophrenic disorders when the father is 40 years of age or older. So that would explain a lot. Everyone's always harping on the moms. Oh, you can't be 35 years or older. You're going to have some Down syndrome kids. But we got a lot of dads out there in their 50s and their 60s. And some of these dads, that sperm quality, you're going to get some autistic, schizophrenic kids. And don't come crying to me for my tax dollars to spend another $10,000 on your special needs kid because you decided that you wanted to be a grandpa and a father at the same time. Or I should say grandpa and a new father at the same time. It's pretty sad. People don't know about this. Children born to fathers who are 40 years of age or older had an increased risk of developing autism because of an increase in random gene mutation in the older father. So yeah, that explains a lot. If you got an old dad, you're probably autistic. And it didn't have to be that way. If he just started knocking up girls when he was young, didn't have to be that way. But unfortunately, people make bad choices. But we're here to educate. We're here to educate. Remember, this is the textbook. This is what people should be learning. This is what you should be learning in your health class. They don't teach you this stuff. They teach you how to have safe anal sex. They don't teach you all this stuff, unfortunately, because no one cares. Who's going to have kids when we can just have robots do anything? What's the point of anything? Why am I reading this? All right, we're going to return this book because no one needs to have children. All right, what are we talking about here? Prenatal care. What exactly? We keep talking about prenatal care. We need to prevent constipation through exercise. So you better be swimming. Look at this. You know, you say, oh, pregnant women can't exercise too hard. Look, this woman is swimming. You can swim. You can swim when you're pregnant. It's fine. It's going to decrease your constipation. It's going to give you a positive mental state. It's going to reduce depression. It's going to be great. So an aerobic program is going to improve it. Don't overdo it. Don't overdo it, but the risk is low. So just do some exercise, basically. Do some calisthenics. Here we got a naked woman doing a home birth, it looks like. Okay, so we've got some bloody babies over here. Just recently born babies. Methods of childbirth. Midwives. Water birthing. Perinatal. Look at this happy picture right here. What's up with this picture, by the way? You want to look at this? You got a woman in a white coat. Can anyone tell me what's going on with this picture? Can anyone tell me what exactly is going on with this picture? I don't know. Maybe you can tell me. That's a perinatal nurse. Okay, natural childbirth, cesarean section, massages, hypnosis, music therapy, acupuncture. Wow. We've got, massage. You can massage babies in order to increase their, what does this say? You got to massage them. In Africa and Asia, which are superior cultures to white people, infants are routinely massaged by parents for several months after growth. This is going to improve growth, health, and well-being, according to like 10 different studies. You need to massage them, and here's some behavioral observations. The following stress behaviors were made on the first and last days: crying, grimacing, yawning, sneezing, jerky arm movement, startles, finger flaring. Various stress behaviors were summarized and reduced. Okay, so if you want to reduce problems with your babies, you got to massage them. That's an important thing. Postpartum depression is pretty common. Yeah, that goes on. You got to bond with the babies. Here we got a new dad. Look how happy that guy is. Don't you want to be that guy? You want to be that guy with your cute little baby? You want to be that guy, don't you? So that's pretty cool. Learning all kind of cool stuff that would be real relevant if we knew this 100 years ago. Maybe we could have avoided some of the tragedies of the 20th century if we knew all this stuff 100 years ago. Maybe we'd be in a different place right now. Maybe we'd be in a better place if we had all this science and knowledge 100 years ago. Maybe history would have turned out a little bit better. So we're gonna pause the video as we do. Whoa, what happened? Let's try that once more. And we're back. We're back with a little bit of language development on 269. Let's see what's happening. How does language develop? What is language, by the way? How do we invent language? How do we perceive it? Tell me the philosophy of language. We need to understand. We need a liberal arts education to understand. Evolution, the brain's role in language. Chomsky. Ooh, we've got Chomsky here. We've got some Broca's area, Wernicke's area. So that's pretty cool. We've got some different aspects of language. This could be important. There was an article in Countercurrents not too long ago that was talking about Piaget or whoever it is. You know, if you understand how people develop from childhood to adulthood, it sort of helps you understand, sort of gives you some philosophical insight in a way. All right, let's read some sad facts. Are you ready for some sad facts? Here we go. In one study, a majority of U.S. mothers in low-income families reported that they were reading to their infants and toddlers with some regularity. In this study, non-Latino white, more highly educated mothers who were parenting a firstborn child were more likely to read books to their infants and toddlers than were African-American Latino mothers. Reading daily was positively related to the children's language and cognitive development. Of course, that could just be a false causation. It could just be a correlation. You know, smart mothers have smart kids. Smart mothers also just read to their kids because they think it's good, even if it's not useful. So, who's reading to their... What did we just read? What did we just read in the text? What did we just read, and what are we now seeing in the picture? And tell me if the text and the picture match up with one another, or if it's a 1984 war is peace, peace is war, you know, reading is not reading, life is death, you know, what's going on here? Tell me, can someone explain that to me? I don't understand what's going on. So we've got some we got women talking to their babies. Resist making normative comparisons. Interesting. I don't even know what that means. Do not measure this development. Okay, so don't compare your kids to other kids because everyone's a special little child. All right. This is interesting. Check this out. Here's a woman who as a child was blonde-haired and as an adult is brown-haired or black-haired. That's interesting. Wendy Werog Stratai. Wendy Werog Strate. All right. What's happening? She has an IQ. All right. That's a cliffhanger. Let's start from the beginning. As a teenager, Wendy felt that she was on the road to becoming a professional author. You are looking at a professional author, you said. My books will be filled with drama, action, and excitement, and everyone will want to read them. I am going to write books, page after page, stack after stack. Overhearing her remarks, you might have been impressed not only with Wendy's optimism and determination, but also by her expressive verbal skills. In fact, at a young age, Wendy showed a flair for writing and telling stories. Wendy has a rich vocabulary, creates lyrics for love songs, and enjoys telling stories. You probably would not be able to immediately guess that she has an IQ of 49 and cannot tie her shoes. She cannot cross the street by herself. She cannot read. She cannot print words beyond the first grade level. She cannot do simple arithmetic. But she's going to be a best-selling author. Because you can do anything you set your mind to. Okay. That was a genuinely heartfelt, inspiring story. Okay. So Wendy has Williams syndrome. It's a genetic defect. I thought intelligence was magic, and it was part of the magic of humanity. And if you ever suggest that genetics are related to intelligence, you're an evil eugenicist Nazi. I don't understand what's going on. This doesn't make sense to me. I think I'm going to read this chapter. I'm going to make some notes. I'm going to regurgitate it for my teacher test or whatever I need to do, and then I'm going to forget it ever exists, and if anyone brings him up, I'm going to call him a Nazi. How about that? Does that sound like a good idea? Okay. All right, so we've got some elephants over there. So this is what a person with Williams syndrome, this is what Wendy has, and this is her elephant. This is how she draws her elephant. That's an elephant, okay? Maybe that doesn't look like an elephant to you, but you're not a best-selling author, are you? So there. Yeah, if you were a best-selling author, maybe you would see the elephant. It's really a non-representational representation of an elephant, and it's better than anything you could come up with. And stop making normative comparisons. Because everyone is special. Everyone is different. Woo! Baby! Oh, baby. Today, an increasing number of fathers are staying home to take care of their children. Consider Darius. On weekdays, Darius's father, a writer, cares for him during the day, while his mother works full-time as a landscape architect. Darius's father is doing a great job of caring for him. It's clear that they genuinely enjoy each other's company. So you can see that here is Here's little Darius with his father, who is a stay-at-home dad. That's the stay-at-home dad there. That's little Darius. And the mother is a landscape architect. So, you know, that's just what's happening. That's just something that is happening more and more. It's just increasing. So that's basically, if you want to make normative claims, you have to say that the picture with little Darius and his father, that is the normative claim. That's normal. That's what we should expect. Okay. The prefrontal cortex is not well developed in adolescence as adulthood. Their brain doesn't have the brakes to slow down their emotions. So prefrontal cortex is what kills your emotions and allows you to ascend to godhood. So you got to have that. Adolescents are basically an inferior race, and adults are superior. That's what I've been taught. What are emotions? I don't understand, and the question makes me anxious. We've got all kinds of emotions here. What are emotions? Do I even care? You know, as schizophrenic, autistic, oh my goodness. Who cares about any of this? I can't tell the difference between any of these different kinds of facial patternings. My autism doesn't allow me to do that, unfortunately. Wow, this is interesting. Separation protest in 4 countries. Note that, what is separation protest? In addition to stranger activity, infants experience fear of being separated from their caregivers. The result is separation protest, crying when the caregiver leaves. Separation protest tends to peak at about 15 months among U.S. infants. In fact, one study found that separation protest peaked about 13 to 15 months in 4 different cultures. The percentage of infants who engaged in separation protest varied across cultures. So you're telling me that... Wait. You're telling me that separation protest differs by different cultures, but then, oh, here's an interesting picture with an interesting caption. The caption is, what are some different types of cries? I thought it said, what are some different kinds of criers? And we got a nice, we got the Asian baby, we got the white baby, the black baby. Oh, snap. Okay. The basic cry, the anger cry, the pain cry. The strong smile. Okay. All right, the separation protest. Let's look at some of these. Separation protest. Note that separation protest peaked at about the same time. However, a higher percentage of infants in African Bushmen engaged in separation protests compared to only about 60% of infants in Guatemalan, Indian, and Israeli kibbutzim cultures. What might explain this? That's an open-ended question. It doesn't answer it, doesn't give a definitive answer. It just said, oh, well, it's an open question. It's one of the mysteries of the world. It's kind of like the mystery of the Holy Spirit. It's the mystery of the different cultures' separation protest. So yeah, you have these differences within Guatemala. Between Guatemala, the Israelis, the African Bushmen. So it's clear to me that separation protest is the greater percentage of children who cried when mothers left. So the more the baby cries when the mother leaves, the more closer it is to an African Bushman. The less that the babies cry when the mother leaves, the closer that culture is to Israeli Jews. So choose which group you would like to be similar to, and adjust your crying accordingly. Okay. Emotional regulation and coping. It sounds like, because separation protest is right next to emotional regulation and coping, it makes me feel as if they're suggesting somehow that African Bushmen have a poor level of emotional regulation of coping, whereas Israeli Jews have a high level of emotional regulation and coping. That's interesting. I wonder why they would just put those 2 sections next to each other that have nothing to do with one another. Weird and strange. I can't explain this. There's a lot that is not explained in this book. Ooh. An infant's temperament can vary across cultures. That's interesting. How does a child acquire a certain temperament? This is an age-old question. How does a child develop a certain temperament? Kagan 2002-2010, argues that children inherit a physiology that biases them to have a particular type of temperament. However, through experience, they may learn to modify their temperament. For example, children can inherit a physiology that biases them to be fearful and inhibited, but they can learn to reduce their fear and inhibition to some degree. Biological influences. Physiological characteristics have been linked with different temperaments. Diaz and Bell, 2012. Misa and Jones, 2012. In particular, an inhibited temperament is associated with a unique physiological pattern that includes a high and stable heart rate, high level of the hormone cortisol, and high activity in the right frontal lobe of the brain. Kagan, 2003, 2010, 2013. This pattern may be tied to the excitability of the amygdala, a structure of the brain that plays an important role in fear and inhibition. An inhibited temperament or negative affectivity may also be linked to low levels of the neurotransmitter serotonin, which may increase an individual's vulnerability to fear and frustration. So that's interesting. If you want a fearful child, you got to increase that cortisol. You got to increase that right frontal lobe. What is heredity's role in the biological foundations of temperament? Twin and adoption studies suggest that heredity has a moderate influence on differences in temperament between or within a group of people. The contemporary view is that temperament is a biologically based but evolving aspect of behavior. The biological foundations are interpreted as meaning that temperament cannot change. However, that's not true. You can change everything all the time. Gender, culture, and temperament. Gender may be an important factor in shaping the context that influences the fate of temperament. Parents react differently to an infant's temperament. This is interesting. The culture. For example, an active temperament might be valued in some cultures, such as the United States, but not in China. Behavioral inhibition is valued in China more than North America. A recent study showed that U.S. infants showed more temperamental fearfulness, while Finnish infants engaged in more positive affects, such as effortful control. These are all just two big words for me. I don't understand. This is very esoteric. Young adults. We're talking about inhibition as an aspect of temperament. I can't hold this book. It's too heavy, guys. Have you seen the size of this book? This book is as big as me. This book is flopping. This book is like a fish. Okay. Goodness of fit. There's a lot of information. In fact, you guys should all just reach through your screen, grab the book, and just steal it from me and read it. Why am I reading a book to you? Why are you not just reading the book yourself? Read the book. Get off YouTube. Stop watching my video about reading books and start just reading books yourself. Oh my goodness. Let's go back to the old index because I'm tired of flipping through this thing. This takes a lot of moral fortitude. It also takes a lot of upper spinal strength. Guys, this is my workout for the day, all right? So don't be hating. I abstain from all exercise because that's a warrior activity. We only do priestly activities like reading books. It's terrible. I need something that holds it up here. I could probably get something as well. I could do it if I fiddled around for long enough, but that would also take physical effort, and we don't want to do that. Isn't today like the Shabbat or something? Today's the Monday Shabbat. Can't do work on Shabbat. Can't work on Shabbos. Okay. Every day Shabbat when you're a priest. Can't do work any day. That's not possible. Dynamic systems. The self and identity. Whoa, that's crazy. Emotional development. Can you guys see this? Can you see? I'm sure the audio is like bouncing off the wall into the microphone. It's coming out tinny and stupid. The self and identity. That's cool. On 313. Let's skip over to 313. Let's spin around, do some 313 action. See where 313 is. Man, this is chock full of stuff here. What characterizes self-understanding? Identity. What is identity? What is identitarian? Maxine Hong, her vivid portrayals of her Chinese ancestry and the struggle of Chinese immigrants who are richer than white people have made her one of the world's leading Asian American writers. Wow, it was a profound influence. Her heritage was important. The entire Chinese village condemned her, pushing herself to kill herself and her child. Wow, that's so crazy. Having a child outside wedlock was taboo. Sounds like a beautiful heritage that you have. And I'm glad that you can express your heritage so I don't have to. Because that sounds like a lot of work. And I'd rather just be a lazy person with no heritage. When I research my heritage, I like to do so critically. And I like to create a moral paradigm in which my heritage is the definition of evil. In a kind of tautological way, where I just sort of after the fact, post hoc, define whatever my heritage happens to be as evil, and I like to do the opposite with other people's heritage. I think that makes me a more cultured person, and it makes me more intellectual. It shows you how big my right frontal lobe is, that I'm totally detached from my emotions, and I have no sense of self outside my individual body. And actually, in body dysmorphic, I'm a woman, so I don't even identify with that. So that just shows you how advanced I am and how inferior you are. People who like their heritage and people who like their bodies, you people are proles. You are warrior proles. Okay, self-understanding. This is philosophy, man. Why do we have a philosophy course in the middle of this book? This is the textbook. We bought the textbook to figure out what preschool teachers are doing with your kids. They're dressing them up in women's clothing, and they're teaching them that Martin Luther King is God, and he has... Let's not go further with that. Okay. All right, self-understanding, right? Oh, my goodness. Public identity, infancy. It's difficult. How can we study? Ooh, the mirror technique. This is always a good one. The mirror technique. One ingenious strategy is to test infants' visual self-recognition. The mirror technique. The infant mother puts a dot of rouge. She puts some dirt or dust or makeup on the infant's nose without the infant's awareness. An observer watches to see how often the infant touches the nose. The infant is placed in front of a mirror. Observers detect whether nose touching increases. Why does this matter? Indicates that the infant recognizes the self in the mirror. Increased touching indicates... Oh, isn't this cool? We're talking about the mirror touch study. And what's the picture? Who's the picture of? What's this picture? Who's touching themselves in the mirror? Who's recognizing themselves? Who has a conception of self-identity? Who is that? It's just some guy. It's just random. These pictures are all random. There's no rhyme or reason. I don't understand. Figure 11.1 displays the results of 2 investigations that use the mirror technique. Okay, so we're not going to talk about cross-cultural studies on that one. That's too bad. That's too bad. Too bad we can't bring up cross-cultural studies on the mirror technique, because that might be insightful. It might help us to realize our privilege, our identitarian privilege, our real self, the ideal self. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, this is very... This shows you really that every preschool teacher is really a philosopher. They're all philosophers, and they understand Piaget's conception of egocentrism. Wow. And social sensitivity. This is self-esteem. Oh my goodness. Self-esteem across the lifespan. This is cool. So, men and women start with a similar self-esteem around ages 9 to 12. And then they both drop around 18 to 22. From 18 to 22, you really only go up and up and up to about age 60. When you hit age 60, you peak. And then after age 69, you drop down to teenage levels again. So that's interesting. Let's look at the domains of self-esteem. Physical appearance, United States was 0.65, other countries 0.62. Scholastic competence, U.S. 0.48, other countries 0.41. Social acceptance, 0.46, 0.4, 0.45, 0.45, 0.33, 0.30. The other countries were England, Ireland, Australia, Canada, Germany, Italy, Greece, Netherlands, Japan. That's interesting. So your self-esteem is highly influenced by physical appearance. That's an interesting one. We might have to hold on to this. This might be we're talking about arrogant. Identity versus identity confusion. Whether a person is homosexual, heterosexual, bisexual, transgender, their sexual identity, their political identity, their religious identity, their cultural, ethnic identity. How intensely they identify with their culture. There's a lot of interesting stuff here. Culture and ethnicity. Most research on identity development has been based on data obtained from adolescents and emerging adults in the United States, most of whom are non-Latino whites. Many of these individuals have grown up with a cultural identity that emphasizes the individual. However, in cultures around the world, adolescents grow up in collectives, especially in China, in East Asia. Emphasis on collectives. Okay. Latino students were more likely to indicate that their cultural identity was an important aspect of their overall self-concept than non-Latino white students. Let's read that paragraph over again because I think that's important. While everyone identifies with a particular culture, many individuals in a cultural majority group take their cultural identity for granted. Adolescents and emerging adults who are part of the cultural majority of non-Latino whites in the United States are unlikely to spend much time of thinking of themselves as white American. However, for many adolescents and emerging adults who have grown up as members of an ethnic minority in the United States, cultural dimensions are likely an important aspect of their identity. Ethnic identity is an enduring aspect of the self. A study of Mexican American and Asian American college students found that they both identified with the American mainstream culture and their culture of origin, which we call bicultural identity. Younger bicultural adolescents primarily responded to the label white with an inhibited response, suggesting hesitation in determining whether the label was like me or not like me. So if you ask adolescents 14 to 21 years old, are you white? And you ask them to tick a box, is that like me or not like me? They hesitate because that's a scary question. Why is that a scary question? Why do white people do that? Why don't other minorities do that? Ethnic identity tends to be stronger among groups of minority groups than among members of mainstream groups. For example, the exploration of ethnic identity was higher among ethnic minority college students than white non-Latino college students. Whew. First generation immigrants, they may or may not develop a new identity. Second generation, I've been American all my life. China is a foreign culture to me. Navajo ethnic heritage, Latino ethnic heritage. Connecting with diversity. Many minority youth live in low SES urban settings. Support for a positive identity is lacking. That's all interesting stuff, but it's just an overview. It's just an overview. It's not an in-depth analysis, so. Biological influences, we've got hormones, androgens, estrogens, congenital. Oh. Did you know? Okay, here's an interesting one. The pelvic field defect. A small number of newborns have a disorder called pelvic field defect, which in boys involves a missing penis. These XY boys have normal amounts of testosterone prenatally, but usually have been castrated just after being born and are raised as females. One study revealed that despite the efforts by parents to rear them as girls, many of the XY children insisted they were boys. Apparently, normal exposure to androgens prenatally had a stronger influence on their gender identity than being castrated and raised as girls. So your prenatal hormonal environment more powerful than your parents. That's an interesting one. Did I just rip a page? Hopefully not. The psychoanalytic view. Sexual attraction to opposite sex parent. Anxiety about sexual attraction. Subsequent identification. Rewards and punishments. So we got Sigmund Freud in here. Sigmund Freud is all up in here. He's not discredited. He's part of... We've got evolutionary psychology, natural selection, speculations about prehistory, how is it gendered, social influences. This is all just very confusing. I think we should just throw up our hands and say gender is whatever you say it is. Here's some interesting thing about schools and teachers. Compliance following rules are reinforced in classrooms. These are behaviors that characterize girls more than boys. Large majority of teachers are female. This trend makes it difficult for boys to identify with teachers and to model their behavior. Male teachers perceive boys more positively than female teachers. Boys are more likely to have a learning disability or ADHD and to drop out of school. Boys are more likely to be criticized by their teachers than girls. School personnel tend to ignore the fact that boys are having academic problems. School personnel tend to stereotype boys' behavior as problematic. Wow, what an admission we've got there. That is systematic discrimination. Wow. Teachers spend more time watching, interacting with boys. Girls play quietly on their own. Boys get more instruction than girls and more help when they have trouble. Teachers often give boys more time to answer a question. Boys are more likely than girls to get lower grades, yet girls are less likely to believe they will be successful in college. Girls and boys enter with roughly same levels of self-esteem, but girls' self-esteem ends up being lower than boys. School children are asked what they want to do. Boys describe more career options than girls do. There is evidence of gender bias against both males and females. Well, isn't that a nuanced take? Isn't that a very much a centrist take? Traditional masculinity and femininity, culture, stereotyping culture. Which culture? In a subsequent study, women and men who live in relatively wealthy industrialized countries perceive themselves as more similar than men and women in less developed countries. Huh. This is all, I mean, you probably already heard this, right? Does gender matter? However, researchers have found some brain differences between males and females. Wow. Stop the presses. I just had to read through a bunch of nonsense to finally get to the meat of the matter. We could devote pages to describing physical differences between men and women. For instance, women have about twice the body fat of men. Most of it concentrated around the breasts and hips. In males, fat is most likely to go to the abdomen. Males grow to be 10% taller than females. Androgen promote the growth of long bones. Estrogen stop such growth at puberty. Differences between men and women are tied to health. Females have longer life expectancy. Females are less likely to develop physical or mental disorders. Females are more resistant to infection. Their blood vessels are more elastic. Males have higher levels of stress hormones, which cause faster clotting and higher blood pressure. Human brains are similar, but there are some differences. Female brains are approximately 10% smaller than male brains. Wow. Guys. Wow. Female brains have more folds, though. And larger folds called convolutions. They're literally called convolutions. They're trying to distract me with convolutions here, but it's not going to work. They allow more surface brain tissue within the skulls of females than males. So that's pretty interesting. One part of the hypothalamus involved in sexual behavior tends to be larger in men than in women. Portions of the corpus callosum, the band of tissues through which the brain's two hemispheres communicate, may be larger in females than in males. although some studies found that not to be the case. So women are less autistic, I think, is what that's saying. An area of the parietal lobe that functions in visual spatial studies tends to be larger in males than females. Areas of the brain involved in emotional expression tend to show more metabolic activity in females than males. All right. No gender difference in general intelligence have been revealed, but gender differences have been found in cognitive areas. So it's not intelligence, but it is a cognitive area. Wow. I call that a convolution. Girls and women generally have higher verbal skills. For example, girls were significantly better in reading and writing. Are there general differences in math aptitude? No. A recent study stated that math is mainly for boys. So they just give two contradictory statements there. I don't know what we're supposed to. We just pick and choose what we like. If we're a feminist, we pick and choose the first sentence and we say, the study found no difference. If we go to the second sentence, it says, recent study found that math is mainly for boys. That's Svensik, Meltzoff, and Greenwald, 2011. Visual spatial ability. There's slight difference. The average male is slightly better than the average female. Females outperform males in reading and writing. Males were more likely to drop out of school, 2% more likely. Boys predominate in the academic bottom half. Blah, blah, blah. Despite positive characteristics of girls, increasing evidence of similarity in math and science skills, and legislative efforts to attain gender equality, STEM careers tend to favor males. So that's due to gender bias, right? All the failures. I mean, this is like, what is this basic MGTOW stuff? Gender controversy. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Gender differences. The largest difference occurred in motor skills, favoring males, followed by sexuality. Males masturbate more likely to endorse sex in a casual, uncommitted relationship. Physical aggression. Males are more physically aggressive than females. Blah, blah, blah. Encourage boys to be more sensitive. This is the Guiding Children's Gender Development. Encourage boys to be less physically aggressive. Encourage boys to handle their emotions. Work with boys to improve their performance. Encourage girls to be proud of their skills. Encourage girls to develop their self-confidence. Encourage girls to be more self-assertive. Encourage girls' achievement. How about we just swap these? You're just reverse stereotype. You're just looking at a stereotype and saying, how can we do something that will negate the stereotype by handicapping boys and helping out girls? I say reverse these. I say encourage boys to be proud of themselves. Encourage boys to develop their competency. Encourage boys to be assertive. Encourage boy achievement. How about we encourage girls to be sensitive? Encourage girls to be less physically aggressive. Encourage girls to handle their emotions, because that's going to help with the pregnancy. Encourage girls to work on their school performance. This is a great, look at this guy's flex. This is not a weird flex at all. This is a great flex. Check out that guy. He's just flexing. He's just flexing in the photo. He's just flexing out. What are some concerns about adolescent males adopting a strong masculine role? That's concerning. That's concerning to me. That's scary. I'm scared about that. Gender roles across cultures. The United States has become more androgynous. That's according to the book. More androgynous. Middle Eastern countries are not androgynous. We've got, but everyone's becoming more androgynous. Gender development. What's next? Moral development. That's pretty cool. Who is the epitome of morality? These people are the epitome of morality. They belong, if we're talking about morality, we need a picture of those people. We need to be reminded about who is moral. Don't you dare, when you read a word, don't project an image of yourself onto the page, because you are not moral. These people are moral. You're immoral. You're a bad person. Okay, these people are good. Wow. Do you know who's... Just to remind you, who is this person? She was raised in the housing projects. She asked, how can I make a difference? And so she started attending city council meetings. This girl is a moral agent. She's a moral person. And if you don't go to your city council meetings and you don't become a community organizer, you're not a moral person. These are the people who are moral. Lawrence Kohlberg is here to tell us about morality. And he's looking at moral dilemmas. You know, he's questioning different moral taboos. He's putting us through these different moral reasoning. Oh boy. Consider a comparison of different cultures. Indians view moral rules as part of the natural world order. Indians do not distinguish between physical, moral, and social regulation. For example, in India, violations of food taboos and marital restrictions can be seen just as serious as acts intended to cause harm to others. In India, social rules are seen as inevitable. In contrast to the United States, Western moral doctrine tends to elevate abstract principles such as justice and welfare to a higher moral status than customs or conventions. So that's an interesting contrast there. This 14-year-old boy is the 6th holiest Buddhist in the world. That's pretty cool. We're learning some stuff. We're learning about empathy. We're learning about moral identity and moral character. We're learning about love withdrawal, power assertion, values clarification. We're learning about this. The American Cancer Society. We're learning about a lot of moral people here. This is funny. We've got one type of a mulatto girl cheating off an Asian girl's test. And if you don't believe me, read the caption. Read the caption. Get it nice and close to the camera so that it reads, yes. Why do students cheat? What are some strategies to prevent this? Yeah, why do mulatto girls cheat on Asian girls? Why do they do that? I don't know. Altruism, pro-social. Ooh. Increase in U.S. juvenile court delinquency caseloads. Number of juvenile court delinquency caseloads has increased from 400,000 in 1960 up to almost 2 million in 1998, let's say, and since then it's sort of been flatlining. So that's good that it's flatlining. We don't want an increase, but that's not cool. I don't like juvenile delinquency. We've got religion and cognitive development. What is this? What does this say? This is, are we against religion? Are we for religion? What are we saying here? Religiousness declined among adolescents in the United States. Children have been indoctrinated into a religion. Many cognitive Piaget. An adolescent might ask, man, they're literally putting Epicurus in here. They're putting the problem of evil in here. An adolescent might ask how a loving God can possibly exist given the extensive suffering of many people in the world. Have you considered Epicurus today? Have you seriously considered the problem of evil today, huh? When you're teaching these kids. Interesting. Religious identity. Religiousness. These people are religious. You can't see any of this. Is this the end of the book? What's going on here? No, this is a new chapter. Social context of development. I could go back to the contents page. Might just go back to the contents page. We reached 388. Gonna see. Oh, did I go too far? Culture and diversity. New models of immigration. These are notes. These are notes. This is telling you why you have to buy the updated version, why you can't buy the old version. Why you got to buy the edition. Oh boy. Connecting with diversity. Got to connect with diversity. Look at how diverse these people are, by the way. We have Susan Harder, a white woman. Catherine Chang. She's married to an Asian man. You can tell by her hyphenated last name, McBride Chang. Yeah, so that's pretty diverse. Joanne Grusek, white woman, pretty diverse. John Colombo, white dude, he's pretty diverse. Let's see what's next. We've got Debbie Leible, white woman, diverse. Nancy Hazen is a diverse white woman. David Moore is a diverse white man. Michael Lewis is a diverse white man. And Rachel Keene is a diverse white woman. So we have a lot of diversity in terms of the expert consultants on this book. So I'm glad we could connect with diversity like that. Okay. Families, schools, and achievement. Connecting with diversity. I have a dream. Same-sex relationships. Caring connections. Connecting with diversity. Culture and diversity. Poverty. That's 482. Ethnicity. Immigration. Differences and diversity. Ethnicity and culture. Schools and achievement. Let's go to 4. We're probably going to go to 470 because I thought there were. I wanted to know, and I thought I had. This is so difficult, man. It's so difficult just to try to get to the meat and potatoes of what I'm. Every other chapter is about connecting with diversity. So none of them actually go deep into the studies and the information on diversity. They just sort of superficially put in a picture of a brown person and say, oh, we're connecting with diversity. Man, I think I skipped some stuff. 228 on intelligence. I must have skipped some things here. 228 on intelligence. They make this stuff so hard to read. They make it so confusing. They add in convolutions in the folds of the female brain. That's the diversity here, the white woman. That's the diversity that we get. So, culture and children's memory. I could probably pause the video instead of reading. Let's go to 205. The index is important. It's there for a reason. It's there to help us. 205. Here we are. Culture and children's memory. A culture sensitizes its members. Cultural specificity hypothesis. Cultural experience determine what is relevant to a person's life. Cultures vary. Schooling provides children with information. Scripts are schemas. Adolescents in the United States remember information about a dating script better when no chaperone was present. Wow. This is elaborately interesting. Let's go over to, was it 228? Let's go to 228. Critical thinking. Mindfulness. That's a big one. Mindfulness. 228. The theory of mind. Information processing. I'm just throwing out words so you know I'm still awake. I haven't fallen asleep yet. Shiffy Landa, a first-grade teacher at the H.F. Epstein Hebrew Academy in St. Louis, Missouri, uses a multi-intelligence approach. That's cool. Intelligence is important. Alfred Binet talked about intelligence. He was an intelligence guy. Gardner, Robert Sternberg, has the triarchic theory of intelligence. The use and abuse. The use and abuse. Intelligence tests have been used as predictors of longevity, school success, work success. Researchers found that lower intelligence is related to illness, chronic disease, how long people live. Scores on tests of general intelligence are substantially correlated with school grades and achievement test performance. IQ in the 6th grade correlates about 0.6 with number of years in education. Intelligence tests are moderately correlated with work performance. Despite the links between IQ and academic achievement and occupational success, it is important to keep in mind that many other factors contribute to success. A single number provided by IQ can easily lead to false expectations. Sweeping generalizations are often made. The child's developmental history, medical background should all be taken into account. So that's a little preview. We're almost there. The neuroscience of intelligence. One intelligence or multiple intelligence? In the current era of extensive research on the brain, interest in the neuroscience underpinning intelligence has increased. Is having a big brain linked to higher intelligence? Is intelligence located in certain regions? Is intelligence related to the speed of information processing? Are individuals with a big brain more intelligent than those with a smaller brain? Recent research using MRI scans to assess total brain volume indicates a moderate correlation of 0.3 to 0.4 between brain size and intelligence. Lutters, 2009. So we talked about before, women have 10% the size of men, or men have a 10% increase over women in brain size. Probably the fact that women are succeeding in school just means we are changing our curriculum to be female-friendly. We are designing, female teachers are using books like these to design a curriculum with women in mind that benefit women, even though men are more intelligent. That could be possible, right? Is intelligence located in a specific region? Intelligence is widely distributed. We got the frontal lobe, the parietal lobe, the occipital lobe, the cerebellum, the temporal lobe. Albert Einstein's brain size was average. He was the smartest guy ever. Remember that, Albert Einstein. And a region of his brain's parietal lobe was 15% larger than average. Okay. So the part of the brain that's bigger or smaller is important. You can't just have a big brain. You got to have different parts of the brain being bigger or smaller. Neurological speed. A recent study found that the speed of neurological functioning was faster for intellectually gifted children. That's Liu and others, 2007. So this is all very cool. To what degree do our genes make us smart? All right, let's hear what mainstream science has to say about this. A research review found that the difference between identical and fraternal twins was not high, only 0.15. Scientists have been able to pinpoint specific genes that are linked to intelligence, concluded that there may be more than 1,000 genes that affect intelligence. However, they haven't been able to identify the specific genes. In adoption studies, how strong is the effect of heredity on intelligence? The highest degree is 1.0. Correlations of 0.7 indicate a strong genetic influence. The heritability of intelligence is about 0.75, which reflects a strong genetic influence. Nicer and others, 1996. A key point to keep in mind about heritability is it refers to a specific group population, not to individuals. So this only works with racist people. You can't use intelligence on individuals. You can only use them on groups of populations. So like the European population. Okay, what's next? It says nothing about why a single individual has a certain intelligence. It doesn't say anything about differences between groups. Well, that's strange. Okay. All right. There are all these flaws. Yeah, environmental influences. The Flynn effect. Apparently, we've become less stupid. We're becoming smarter because of the Flynn effect. That could just be nature versus nurture. Increased nutrition. The Abecedarian project. There was a 17-point advantage over the control group. The experimental group showed normal IQs averaging 101. These were children from low-income, poorly educated families. Interesting. Cross-cultural comparison. Cultural bias in testing. Psychologists have developed culture fair tests. Ravens, progressive matrices. Connecting with diversity. Why is it so hard to create culture fair tests? Why is it so hard? Most tests tend to reflect that the dominant culture thinks is important. This is by Zhang and Sternberg, 2013. Does that mean Zhang and Sternberg are the dominant culture because they tend to perform best on IQ testing in America? That would be consistent with what they're saying here. If tests have time limits, that will bias the test against groups that are not concerned with time. Groups that are not concerned with time. I wonder what kind of groups those might be who score lowly on IQ tests. Within the same culture, different groups. So within American culture, for instance, different groups could have different attitudes, values, motivation. This could affect their performance. Robert Sternberg concludes there are no culture fair tests, but only culture reduced tests. Interesting. Culture bias. Many of the intelligence tests are culturally biased. For example, one question was asked on an early test what you should do if you find a 3-year-old child in the street. The correct answer was call the police, but children from inner-city families perceive the police as adversaries are unlikely to choose this answer. So yeah, ethnic comparisons. Page 240. Some sad facts, some facts that are going to make you cry here. Assessments of ethnic comparisons consistently indicate the following order from highest to lowest scores on intelligence tests. Number 1, Asian Americans. So I guess the Asians are the dominant culture in America. Is that what you're telling me? There's a cultural bias toward Asians because Asians are the dominant culture. That's interesting. Can I make a letter to the editor? Can they answer this question for me? I don't know. Second is non-Latino whites. Third, Latinos. Fourth, African Americans. Suzuki, Short, and Lee, 2011. Yeung, 2012. These are average scores. Further, a recent research review concluded that as African Americans have gained educational opportunities, the IQ gap has decreased. IQ differences between non-Latino whites, African American children have dropped 6 points over the last 3 decades. So that's equivalent to 2 points every 10 years or 1 point every 5 years. So the difference has dropped from 15 to 9 points. So if it's dropping 1 point every 5 years, then we need 45 more years and the black-white IQ gap will be reduced to 0. Let's see if that comes true. You know, come back to this video in 45 years and tell me if that's true. A potential influence. Also, you know, here's the funny thing about blackness. If a black person and a white person have kids, what race is the child? The child is black. So perhaps one of the reasons why in the last 30 years the black IQ has risen is because you've got a bunch of half-black people who are calling themselves black who are skewing the scores. I don't know. That would require genetic analysis. Stereotype threat. When African Americans take an intelligence test, they are confirming the old stereotype that they are intellectually inferior. These studies have confirmed the existence of stereotype threat. Ooh. If they don't think the test doesn't count, they perform as well as the white students. Critics argued that the extent to which stereotype threat explains the testing gap has been exaggerated. Sackett, Hardison, and Cullen, 2005. So if you just tell black people life doesn't matter and nothing you do is important, then they'll do just as well as white people, because then stereotype threat won't apply. Okay. Whoo, baby. We got some hot takes here. Extremes of intelligence and creativity. Intellectual disability. Children who are gifted, creativity, differential thinking, conceptions of intelligence, biological genetic influences. Didn't we already go over language? Yeah, we did this already. How about we pause this time? Here's a little tidbit for you. The Reggio Emilia approach is an educational program for young children that was developed in the northern Italian city of Reggio Emilia. Why are the Italians always coming up with these funky Montessori, Reggio Emilia? Why are they doing this? What's up with the Italians? Does anyone know? Does anyone know? Oh, by the way, check out this classroom. You have a nice lady, two nice ladies teaching these kids. This is the ideal classroom. This is the ideal Reggio Emilia classroom. That's the future, guys. If you understand the future, you want to understand that people like me don't have a future in these classrooms. We don't belong in these classrooms. We belong in caves. That is our natural habitat. That's where we belong. That's where we should be. In caves. We are cave people, and we belong in caves. So we've got some interesting facts on testing here. Consider the following. An analysis indicated that almost every fourth grade student in Mississippi knows how to read, but only half of Massachusetts students do. That's weird. Mississippi standards for passing the reading test are far below those of Massachusetts. So Mississippi kids are functionally illiterate, and they're pretending that, wow, this is pretty incredible. No child left behind. Thank you, George W. Bush. Thank you for creating this situation in which we just lower the standards eternally to benefit women and other diverse groups. Thank you, George W. Bush. You wonderful... Oh, here's the Montessori, by the way. If you were wondering about these Italians, why are they coming up with all these educational things? I don't know what is wrong with these Italians. You know, all I need is the Prussian school system. That's all I need. That is all I need. Larry Page and Sergey Brin, founders of the highly successful internet search engine Google, their early years at Montessori schools were a major factor in their success. Whew. Well, thank you, Montessori, for giving me Google. What would I do without Montessori? That's a reason enough to ban Montessori schools. It gave birth to Google, so we probably need to get rid of Montessori. Or, you know, that's the wrong approach. That's me being in my cave. That's my caveman warrior head talking here. Really, you want to be part of the Montessori so you can be part of the Google elite. That's who you want to be. Otherwise, you're going to die. This is the future. The future looks like these two guys. You want to know what the future looks like? You want to know what the kings of the future look like? They look like those two guys. So, teach your kids some Montessori. Okay, get them in the Montessori. Let them do whatever they want. And that's how you rule the world. Oh my goodness. Controversies. Competent early, universal four-year-old children. Connecting with diversity. It's like every other sentence is connecting with diversity. I can't escape it. High school. Top dog phenomenon. The dropout rate of Latinos remains high, although it's been decreasing from 28% to 16.3% over the last 10 years. The lowest dropout rate was for Asians at 2.8%. Wow, guys, did you realize something? That Latinos drop out of high school much more commonly than African Americans. See, you were going to say that it was African Americans. It's not. It's Latinos. And Asian Americans are doing the best because America is an Asian-dominated culture. American culture is Asian-dominated. That's why Asians are winning. In cities such as Detroit, Cleveland, and Chicago, dropout rates are above 50%. Well, isn't that wonderful? Isn't that wonderful? 20% or 40% of Latino students cited economic reasons for leaving school. 1/3 of female students dropped out for personal reasons such as pregnancy or marriage. Ooh, look at this girl. She is a healthy size. She's healthy at any size. This girl right here. This girl right here, I'm going to tell you right now, she is healthy at any size. I don't care what size, no matter how small, no matter how big, she's healthy at any size. I Have a Dream is an innovative, comprehensive, long-term dropout prevention program. Why is it called I Have a Dream? I thought that was Martin Luther King. What does Martin Luther King have to do with preventing dropouts? Clearly, we know that this is not a black problem. This is a Hispanic problem. So I don't know what Martin Luther King has to do with this. He never helped Hispanics. In fact, Martin Luther King was probably racist against Mexicans. That's my guess. You know, he said, judge them not by the color of the skin, judge them on whether they're able to speak English. I think Martin Luther King was a little bit biased against Hispanics. Okay. Schools are not doing a good job of educating ethnic minority students. Well, they're doing a great job of educating the Asians, so don't tell me it's ethnic minority students. When do I get to become an ethnic minority? I just can't wait. I can't wait for the day. In fact, I'm declaring myself an ethnic minority right now. I think, you know, jokes aside, the Kekistani thing was good because you became part of an ethnic minority. How do we become part of an ethnic minority? That's my... How do we do this? How do we do this? How do we become part of an ethnic minority? It's a complicated question. There's got to be a way. You probably do it through religion. Once you can hit that ethnic minority sweet spot, then you don't get like you just escape, like you don't become, you like ascend into godhood and no one talks about you anymore. More than a third of African American, almost 1/3 of Latino students attended schools in large districts compared with only 5% of all white and 22% of Asian American students. They're segregated, grossly underfunded, do not provide opportunities. The effects of SES, which I don't know what that means, but I suppose it means shitty education system, or subpar education, I don't know. And the effects of ethnicity are often intertwined. School segregation. Almost 1/3 of all African American Latino students attend schools in which 90% or more of the students are from minority groups. African American Latino students are less likely than white or Asian Americans to be enrolled in college prep programs. A jigsaw classroom. The jigsaw classroom, in which students from different cultural backgrounds are placed in a cooperative group. Okay, reduce bias, be a cultural mediator. I thought children didn't see race. I thought children just got along, and I thought you had to teach racism. So why do you have to teach kids not to be racist? Why is that? We got a little bit of autism coming on here. Asperger's. What causes autism? Recently, we've been asking about autism. Family socialization, autism. Ooh, Simon Baron Cohen, who, by the way, is the brother of Sacha Baron Cohen, if you didn't know that. It's estimated that boys are 5 times as likely as girls to have autism spectrum disorders. Center for Disease Control and Prevention, 2012. Expanding on autism's male linkage, Simon Baron Cohen, 2008-2011, recently argued that autism reflects an extreme male brain, especially indicative of males' lesser ability to show empathy and read facial expressions. He produced all these animations. He tested all this stuff. And I'm getting some kind of... No, I don't want a scan. I don't need you to scan right now. That's fine. We don't need to scan. Okay. Moving on. Educational issues, IEP, Kaufman and colleagues, extrinsic motivation. Wow, that's pretty important. We're going to skip right over that. We've got women wrestling. Don't these women look beautiful and like natural and just... I can't even see what's going on in the frame. I hope you can, because that's like... That's out of my purview there. The virtual brain. You can grow your brain. Purpose. What is purpose? I need teachers to tell me. Who's at the top? The United States is number 17 in reading. The United States is number 32 in mathematics. Oh my goodness. Ethnicity and culture. Does their ethnicity deter ethnic minority children from high achievement? For example, Asian Americans have a strong academic achievement orientation. Sandra Graham, 1986-1990, has conducted a number of studies that reveal stronger differences in achievement related to socioeconomic status rather than ethnicity. She struck how consistently middle-income African-American students, like their white middle-income counterparts, have a high achievement expectations, understand that failure is usually due to a lack of effort. Okay, so that's according to Sandra Graham. Let's study this. We're almost at the end. Children, cross-cultural studies, individualism, collectivism, psychological ramifications of poverty, countering poverty's effects, immigration, the immigration paradox model. Youth show a high level of well-being and fewer problems than native-born youth. Some children from immigrant families are doing quite well, depending on the characteristic of Asian Americans are growing by 600%, Latinos are growing by 400%. Latinos are going to outnumber non-white or non-Latino whites. I hate that term, non-Latino whites. If I turn my head away from the audio recording device, the microphone, can you hear anything that I'm saying? Is this 2 hours of worthlessness? Projections. The white non-Latino bar is blue. It stays essentially the same. The yellow bar is Hispanic. It's going up and up. The purple is black. It's staying the same. African Americans staying the same. Asian Americans going up. Asian Americans by the year 2100 will surpass African Americans. That's pretty cool. I mean, it's not cool. It's morally neutral, and I don't care what ethnicity the country will be. Okay. Whew. Keep going. We gotta finish this. Gotta finish this up. Can't be straggling on this. Can't be. We want to observe. We want to observe. This guy. This caption says that this guy celebrates Kwanzaa. He celebrates Kwanzaa. Okay. Do you understand that he celebrates Kwanzaa? Can you read that? I can't. When it's on this side of the page, it's like hard for me to see what's going on here. All right, let's get back to this. Prejudice, discrimination. Stereotypes. Media use. Video games. Correlational studies indicate that children who extensively play violent video games are more aggressive and more likely to engage in delinquent acts. So violence in video games, proved right there. Proved by DeWall, Anderson, and Bushman, 2013, Gentile, 2011. Whose last name is Gentile? I mean, that's like a anti-Semitic last name right there. Certainly not like Levinson. Okay. So, yeah. All this is bad. Everything is bad. The computer is going to hurt you. And I think we're into the glossary. We're going to double check, see if I skipped or missed anything. There's a lot to learn in the world, and we could always learn more. But I think that's enough for now. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.